right, the board is back in open session. At this point, we open the floor for public comment. Is there any public comment? Then is this for the Girl Scouts? That will be the next thing. Yeah, we have a special item on the list for them.
They're on the agenda.
If there is no public comment, we move on to the superintendent's report.
On the superintendent's report, what I want to do is introduce our representatives from the Girl Scouts that want to talk to our Board of Education about painting the blacktops. So you want to come to the microphone and introduce yourselves? The microphone's funny. You don't hear it like it's really a microphone. It just goes in for the audio and video.
My name's Hannah O'Flaherty, and I will be working with Hollywood.
My name's Josie Randall, and I'm going to be working with Ames.
My name is Jory Reyes, and I'm working with Central.
My name is Scarlett Hall, and I will be working for Blythe.
What a Silver Award is. To earn the Girl Scout Silver Award, you must find a problem in the community, complete a Take Action project, fill out forms that say what you have done, and do at least 50 hours of service for the project. After this is completed, we can go to an award ceremony next March to celebrate with other Girl Scouts that have completed awards. The Girl Scouts that have earned their Gold Award and Silver Award will attend.
What we are trying to fix. We want to fix the plain old blacktops. When we were growing up, we always loved to play on the beautiful colored blacktops. We decided to do this because the colorful blacktops are faded and gone. The children of District 96 need things to do during recess. Like examples are hopscotch, foursquare. And then kids are just wandering around during recess doing nothing. And then there is only a kickball field, and that's only at a few schools. What our next steps are. Our next steps are in order: get suggestions from you, the principals, and the staff, raise money for stencils and paint, schedule a certain day to paint each blacktop with the community, advertise the community painting parties, give food and refreshment donations from the community businesses. This summer we would like to have the project completed.
So our cost estimate per school is that per school, the paint cost is going to be $495.68 with, that's 16 gallons of paint per school with 8 colors. We found that the paint was $30.98 per gallon. For all 4 schools in paint, we think it's going to cost around $1,982.72. We think for like paint supplies, it's going to cost $419. Without stencils, we think it's going to cost around $2,402.02 in total. So right now, we're currently consulting with members of the District 96 environment to find what designs will work best for the schools. We want to get your guys' opinion and ideas to paint on the blacktops so that students will use them. We're currently looking at stencils from Peaceful Playground, but stencils are a little bit pricey. Central School has previous stencils that they already have, so that school is already covered.
How we are going to paint. We were going to have a painting party at some point in the summer for each school individually. In order to do this, we must collect our supplies hopefully by the very latest June. Questions we have. Any design ideas? Any suggestions or ideas in general? Does this District 96 board have any additional funds in their budget that they could use to fund our projects? Thank you. Any questions?
Thank you.
I think I just may say a couple things. First of all, I think your presentation was excellent. You guys spoke very well, and your presentation was very, very clear and well organized. And I also think your ideas for project is fantastic. I think this idea of the peaceful playgrounds is really, really good. It's something that could get the kids out there and moving around more and give them more things to do. I think that's a really, really good idea. I don't have any particular ideas. I'm not really a playground expert on that sort, but probably you guys know more about that than me. But
Since we have multiple disciplines in the district, we have music departments, science departments, history. Maybe we could consult each department in different schools and they could come up with a genre idea that could kind of, because we're not just one topic. We're, we could talk about different things in the playground and kind of inspire them, not to do studying on the playground, but maybe just something more fun to engage them, music, or I don't know.
I have a question. So for the painting parties, since you're Girl Scouts, will you be supplying cookies? Maybe. Think about it. Okay.
So is there any way you can make stencils yourself? I've never done that. You guys can move back up.
We were actually thinking about maybe doing cardboard, but then after we found websites that have stencils for actually pretty cheap prices,
they are?
we also
Okay.
thought of that. So we're kind of consulting between the two options.
I wonder if any of the art teachers in the district have ever done this or have experience with it. They might be somebody good to just
Mr. Singh, right?
have a conversation with Mr.
Yeah.
Singh. Yeah, that would be. Or could you use Central stencils other places, or is that proprietary?
I think it's proprietary.
Okay.
Because the stencils at sorry to take over Green Girls. The stencils at Central were donated by another parent.
Right.
What year, Joy?
In 2010.
Yeah.
I remember those.
Yeah, so they were. And then to Sherry's point, the ones that they have at Central, one's a caterpillar that has numbers on it. Then they have a state
States.
one.
I remember the states one. Yeah.
And then
They have a tree that has all the letters of the alphabet on it.
and then they had a big hopscotch.
There's a hopscotch
racket.
one.
Mm-hmm.
That looks like a racket.
So are you planning on repeating the stencils that were already done and then adding some new, or
Well,
waiting to get inspiration from other people as well?
In general, we thought that we would put them in different places because what I found was a lot of the older stencils were put in one section of the blacktop instead of having them in different places. Like the big blacktop where the older kids are, they didn't have any stencils at all.
Right.
And back where the first graders are, they had quite a few actually that are very, very close to being all gone.
Yeah.
You may just have to consult the PE department to make sure that if you do in that larger space, that it doesn't conflict with their running patterns or whatever they do. I don't think it would be a big problem, but that's another place I might consult. So you can get-
Do you need a particular kind of paint for this? Or, I mean, a special kind of paint, or is
Yeah, because I think just regular acrylics will wash off or fade away faster than regular blacktop.
so there's a special type of paint for
Yeah.
painting blacktop?
It's called epoxy paint.
Okay.
And we actually had someone at a hardware store tell us.
I see.
Good. Going to the experts. Okay.
But we found it's epoxy paint, and that would be the kind that we need to use to keep it, for it to stay longer.
That's the kind you have to mix two different types, like A and B, right? And you mix them with the.
They'll find that out
But I think it's a really great project, and I, for one, would like to see the district try and find the money to support
Put it on
you
his
doing
mind.
this.
Do we have a budget for that kind of thing? I mean, for is that somewhere the?
We have some,
Principals have
there's
any-
some money that the principals have that's kind of discretionary. And I think, for example, does Hollywood have the states painted on it?
It does, I believe. Yes.
I think it's kind of new, maybe like 2 years old. So I think there would be something that I think in talking to the principals, and I also think you mentioned maybe talking to the PTAs and PTOs at the schools also is another idea. Yeah.
You guys have done that, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
They have been talking.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Well, it sounds like a great project, and
Do you have a chairperson for your group? Is there somebody that, if we were going to get back in touch with somebody about the next steps and setting up because it's something we would schedule, like you said, a summer day, but we'd want to make sure that there wasn't some other project going on where they needed to be bringing trucks over the blacktop or something and getting in your way.
So why don't you girls explain to them how you guys are doing?
Oh, so we have advisors, which are generally, well, mine is a member of the Central PTO
Okay.
that is helping me organize everything. And then I don't know about the other girls, but I know we all have a specific advisor that's helping us figure out everything with the school PTO.
And so they're each in charge of their own school.
Okay,
Just
okay.
to get the 50 hours,
Okay.
it has to be broken out
Okay.
for each girl to take care of their own school.
Well, all the principals meet regularly, and I meet with them, so I will talk to them about making sure that each school gets back to the right, which one of you and your advisor.
You guys have all made contact, right?
Right.
So they're already aware of this. So
I do have a question. I know everyone's been mentioned here, but do you have somebody from Hollywood representing who's going to be doing?
Oh, I am.
You are, okay.
Yes. I talked to Kim Quilty. I
Kim Quilty.
emailed her about it, and she responded back and just wanted to figure out more about how she would be a part of it.
Okay.
And I haven't gotten a response, but so far she's who I'm leaning towards. And if not, then I might find another PTA member or
Yes.
talk to the principal of Hollywood as well.
Yes.
She did have an principal and those stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So she's aware.
Right, because, we have summer school classes,
Right.
so it's just a matter of coordinating, but it sounds like it's going to be really cool.
But it sounds like you've got some direction now and some next steps, and it's a really great project. Really happy to see you guys taking that up. So why don't you maybe just coordinate with
Yes.
Ms. Ryan Toy and
But certainly the board, the
Yeah.
school board supports the project.
sounds like wholly behind it.
Sure.
Yeah.
Members do.
Just to be clear, so in terms of finding funds, you want the girls to approach the PTOs or the PTO boards?
Well, I think that might be one thing to start with. Start with the PTOs, see if they get money that way, and then
And I think the principals, ask the principals if they have some specific budget. Also.
we can also talk about it at the PLT meeting on
Yeah.
Monday.
Yeah.
On Monday, we meet with the Martha and a board member, and the PTA presidents usually meet, so we can possibly add that to the agenda to have like a group conversation.
So the girls are also working on a similar presentation, but directed for each of the schools.
Great.
And so Tori is going next week to the central PTO meeting and going to do her presentation to them with specific costs for central and so forth.
Great.
I think it's a great idea, though.
Yeah, it's
they're looking
fantastic.
pretty sad back there.
Well, thanks very
Thank
much
you.
for your presentation and your time and all your enthusiasm and energy for this great project.
Yeah.
Nice job,
good
girls.
time. Yeah, great job.
Thank you. Thank you. Could I get one group picture of you guys and the girls?
Of course.
Yes.
Do you have papers? They have to document.
Yeah, come on. We love pictures.
We should stand with them.
I don't know, do you want us to stand with them?
Well, we were in the photo.
Easier to go solve this. Stand in the middle and we'll put.
We'll sort of.
Come on in, Sherry.
Are we going to fit?
Boy, are we cozy.
Are we good?
Okay.
Of course.
Do one more. All right.
Oh, one more.
Be in the picture, too. Sorry, she's right.
Brother. 1, 2, 3. Thank you.
That's the first time we got to do that.
Bob, that's a
Thank you,
landmark
everyone.
picture.
Thank you.
That's a landmark picture right there.
Where's your camera?
That was fun.
Is there anything else on these?
No, that's it.
180 from there.
Next, we move on to the consent agenda. Would the board secretary like to read the consent agenda?
Yes. Tonight's consent agenda includes minutes of the previous meetings, March 21st, closed session, March 21st, regular business meeting, April 4th, closed session, April 4th, special board meeting, the personnel report, the payables pre-list from March 29th, and the payables pre-list from April 18th. And also, as well as the IASB press policies, which include 2:260, the uniform grievance procedure, policy 4:40, incurring debt, policy 5:20, workplace harassment prohibited, exhibit which includes Exhibit 5:20, resolution to prohibit sexual harassment, and policy 5:200, terms and conditions of employment and dismissal.
this point, are there any items that anyone would like to have taken off the consent agenda for further discussion? If not, is there a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented?
So moved.
Second.
Margie, please call the roll.
Mr. Marhol?
Aye.
Mr. Barsadi?
Aye.
Ms. Murphy?
Aye.
Mr. Regan?
Aye.
Ms. Kleiber?
Aye.
Mr. Hunt?
Aye.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
Motion carried.
Thanks, Margie. Next up is the Riverside Education Council. Any comments? If not, then we next move on to board member comments. Would any board member like to participate in anything or seen any shows or anything that we should talk about? Or
I had an opportunity to tour Hollywood and Blythe about 2 weeks ago, and both principals were very open in extending my stay there. So that was, it was good to see both schools in operation.
I got to go to the 5th and 6th grade band concert last week, which was really impressive, especially when they have the 5th graders go first, who are just learning, and then you have your 6th graders who are, in band every day during the school day. It was impressive. And it was neat to watch all the 5th graders come in and watch the 6th graders going into next year. So I was actually blown away. I thought they sounded fantastic. And I also was able to attend Hauser PTO sponsored with their food drive, the Feed the Community Day with Feed 6. And I know several people, some of the administration were there. It was a fantastic event. They packed 40,000 meals to go along with their canned food drive, collected almost 600 cans that day too, and a lot of money. And it was just, it was amazing. And the principals of Hauser were there. The energy was amazing. I mean, the PTO just did a fantastic job, and it was neat to see, like, my son and half of his baseball team came because their tournament was canceled, so they were able to show up. And it was really nice to see his students working together and doing some really great work. So I appreciate, hopefully they continue that moving forward.
Sherry and I. Sorry.
Yeah, we went to the orchestra concert. Of course, Miss Gill did a fabulous job, and Miss Banaszewski always, every time I see them, you forget from 5th grade through 8th the progression that they make and the progress, and it was really lovely. So
Right,
sad to see her go, but
concert. They played that. I don't know if you guys remember the piece that they commissioned 4 years ago. That was their premiere last night. It was actually quite good. Actually, they had kids coming in that were in high school that used to be in the orchestra. They came in, and there was all kinds of surprises. And based on our discussion of a few weeks ago, we went ahead and told them we were going to name the stage after her, and that was very well received. The trustees of the village named April 17th Patty Gill Day, so they really went all out for the different. So it was a nice event.
I wonder if they have a video of the original composition. That would be great. I would love to see that. I wasn't there, but I would love to see it.
This was very well done.
That's fantastic.
Any other comments then? If not, we move right into the committee reports. First up is the policy committee.
I have nothing to report at this time.
All right. Finance.
Nothing to report.
It's easy. Sherry, education.
Come on, guys. We had an advanced learners discussion and a presentation, and teachers were there, and that was the only topic, but it was a deep one. So.
Great. Okay. We'll move on to old business. The first item is the goal setting meeting, setting a date for the goal setting meeting. So I think that Martha proposes 3 different dates here in June. Is that right?
3 different dates with the possibility of maybe tagging it on to the June cow is one other idea.
Okay.
It's hard to predict an agenda at this point in time. If we thought we could keep the agenda light enough, that's one other idea. Okay. I know time is...
Like June, if you're going to choose a light, it could be
possibly it could be, right.
Well, of these other dates that are on the schedule, are there any dates that people cannot make that they know right now?
I cannot do the 13th.
13th is the board meeting.
The Wednesday. No, I can't.
Or is the board meeting on that day or not?
I thought we have the
13th
6th
isn't
is our
on the-
cow.
13th isn't on
13th.
Martha's schedule.
Right. But we didn't leave the 13th. So we have 11th,
Oh, I'm
12th,
sorry.
or 14th.
I thought you included
And then
the
the
13th.
June
It's
6th
just
cow, or
12th,
11th, 12th, or 14th of June.
Okay, sorry. I thought the 13th.
Right.
I'm looking at it right here too.
Okay, so
Then I guess they're okay. Any Anybody else?
I advocate tagging it on to the 6th.
I like the 6th too.
On the
Yeah.
6th?
Yes.
I can't do the 14th, but
Okay,
I
so you
could do
prefer
11th.
what do other people think about that?
Yeah.
Just doing it on the,
I can defer to that. I would be open to those days.
I mean, as long as it's not till midnight, right?
Yeah. The only date that might be a little difficult for me is the 12th, but I can probably make any of those dates work. But if we want to move it to tack it on to the 6th, that'd be fine as well for me.
That'd be the best.
Is everyone comfortable with the 6th then?
Maybe. Dan?
Should work for me, although out of all the days, the 6th is the most somewhat contentious, but I can work around it, I think.
What about, should we just go through each day really quick, just see if we have
Maybe,
a
why don't we do
backup?
that in case there turns out that Dan has a conflict on the 6th? Why don't we plan on the 6th? If Dan has a conflict or someone other has a conflict, we should maybe have a backup date.
Looks
So
like
what
the
would be?
11th. I'm just from the
Yeah,
comments you just made.
that's what it
that
sounded like,
You said
too.
maybe not the. Someone said not the 14th, and someone said not the 12th.
So does the 11th work as a backup date if we can't do the 6th for some reason?
Sure.
Yes.
Okay, so let's then plan on this on the 6th. If there's a conflict, anyone has a conflict, let Martha know, and then we can sort of reschedule for the 11th. Right.
And we're comfortable with this idea that it would be kind of a similar to what we did last year. Maybe we may structure a little bit differently, but
Sure.
it's not with an IASB person or anything. It's
Yeah.
just our own kind of.
Right, goal setting as opposed to a self-evaluation.
Yeah.
Okay, that sounds
So
good.
the motion is as the memo reads, right?
Do we need a motion on this? I mean,
Well,
is this,
it's up-
I see it's written on there, but this doesn't seem like this is something to vote on,
It
does
doesn't
it?
seem that way to me, but it is
Right.
listed as an
Yeah.
action item.
So I guess it could just be the action is to move forward with a goal-setting meeting with the preferred date.
That's fine with me, if we want to do that, yeah. Okay. Is there a motion to approve the goal-setting meeting as presented with the preferred date of the 6th? And if that turns out to be, if someone has a conflict with that date, then the 11th is the backup date.
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? If not, then Margie, please go over. Oh, why don't we just take all in favor? Raise your hand. Aye.
Aye.
Unanimous.
Just like, what?
Anyone opposed? Okay, unanimous. All
Is it
right.
raise your hand?
All right. So, next we come to the Ames Memorandum of Understanding with the architect. Is there any discussion or comment on the terms of this agreement?
This was the original MOU, right?
Right. This was original. There were some proposed changes or questions about, and it's unclear if it was sort of adding more community engagement or just really wanting to be assured that there will be community engagement as part of it.
My suggestions, I don't have my markup here, but in addition to in the project schedule, since I initiated this, that the visioning sessions had an opportunity for the community with some input, and then with regards to the presentation, that also has an opportunity for some kind of presentation to the board and the community as well.
I agree with that.
My thoughts on that are that, and this was in discussion with Martha, we are engaging on a project which is going to be in place for 20, 30, 40 years. We have, it needs to be right, so we need, the community and the board need to have an opportunity to have some input and review of the proposals that the architect comes up with.
What other people think? Other people have some thoughts on Joel's proposal?
So I agree with what you're saying, Joel, but I do believe that what you're asking for is already contained within this MOU. I mean, I think you're just writing it a different way. I think there's more than ample time in here for public disclosure, including board meetings.
It's just not written down.
To be honest, I'm going to disagree. The reason being is when you look at the schedule, there's a presentation to the District and Administration Committee at the end of June, And then revisions are made based on the input from the committee. And that's where I think that there needs to be input from the taxpayer, the parents.
But I think that's after the board presentation, right?
When Carrie spoke, she indicated, and maybe I'm misquoting her, but she indicated that she was not planning on additional revisions after that.
Well, because the board presentation is going to be several options, correct?
Right. So,
That's right.
Yeah, so I think it's, the path is sort of yet to be determined. We have a sense of the path, but the possible turns we can take, I think, are still within the hands of the board, the visioning committee, feedback from the community. So, but my understanding is the visioning committee, those visioning sessions, visioning is a very specific term that she used that really speaks to an educationally driven process where Rich and Linda would be part of the vision committee, because what we agreed through the facilities advisory committee was to have the vision committee, which would be representatives from each grade level at Ames, as well as specials and specialist teachers, Mr. Gearman, and then sort of contained within that the facilities advisory committee would be invited to be part of all that. So therefore there'd be 2 board members invited to be part of that. But the visioning committee is designed to be educational in nature, right? To take the views and viewpoints of how you design an educational system based on the needs of students and primarily driven by the needs of staff and students. And then there would be parent feedback, and I think, again, I don't want to speak for Carrie, but she really talks about how she really looks for educational design, and then she certainly wants the feedback of the community around kind of the extent of the project, the cost of the project, does this really meet the needs, as the way the community sees it. So that community engagement is a bit of a broader term. I do believe it also encompasses regularly revisiting to the board really as much as you all want. It's really just asking for Carrie's time in the process, and then the idea of sharing concepts with the community. And again, yet to be determined, but that's anything from sort of the ideas that have been discussed would be something from putting it on our website, putting like poster boards in the foyers of the schools and letting parents come in and offer feedback on multiple options, but not sort of starting from the ground, but to get parent feedback around when there are maybe 3 options, is again the way I
Yes.
understand.
Yeah, I'm most comfortable with that, and I guess I still envision that as part of the process. I feel like that comes after the visioning committee, and then the options come up.
Right.
But
That's how I see it. I mean, I'm comfortable with that. I don't want to have to start from the ground up, like start this process
yeah,
anew. So
Why can't we make the presentation at the end of June just live or available to the community and the board? We don't have to
I think
be.
we could.
I mean, that to me, it's just missing it written. The problem, I think that.
the one at the end
Maybe
of
Which one?
June? At the end of June or the August?
No, the June one.
End of June.
Presentation to District
End of June.
Administration
And
Committee.
maybe
end of
I don't
June.
want to speak for Joel, but I think because it's not explicitly written, I think is inherently a problem, because sometimes if it's not written down, it doesn't get done, even if there's a lot of talk about it.
No, yeah,
I'd like to see it more discreet.
I'm not comfortable with the June one, because, so the visioning committee is actually something a little bit separate than the facilities advisory committee. So that is when that process is reported to in the committee.
I get it. I just don't know why people can't see it. What's the big deal?
Well, I think that Joel had 2 separate points here. The first was the visioning meeting with, if I correct me if I'm wrong here.
Yeah,
First
no.
one was the visioning meetings with focus groups, which include the district leadership, the students, and the staff. And I think one of your questions was, why isn't there an opportunity at that as a focus group, a community focus group? Is that what you're suggesting? Or was that one a part of your proposal here?
Yes, because the students, I understand what you're saying when it's educationally focused, and that's the purpose of this edition, is to provide appropriate services and learning environment for the students. But the students have parents, and so the parents understand that as well. And they should be and need to be part of this, because these 3 concepts are going to be, from our discussion was, we're probably talking about various levels of cost. There's going to be a limited improvement that addresses some very specific needs, and then the next two will have increased infrastructure and hence increased cost. And some of those concepts will address other needs that we've seen in the district. At least that's my belief. So those other needs are driven by the overall district. They're not just Ames. And I think Carrie needs to hear that. And she's going to come and listen to the visioning sessions, develop these 3 sets of conceptual floor plans, and then present those to the district and administration committee. But the community and the board should have an opportunity to see those 3 plans so that they can be further refined. Because once we have those 3 plans in front of us, in order for Carrie to start doing actual design / buildable documents, she's going to need to have one of those 3 concepts approved. That there needs to be, I believe, there needs to be some level of input and critical assessment of those 3 sets of concepts. That's what I'm suggesting, and I think it does need to be written into
Martha, I think it might be worth just reminding everyone who is participating in the visioning session.
So the visioning sessions, and again, this is set up by the recommendation from our architect, right? So she shared that she has a methodology, right? That she has specific training and methodology and how she believes you come to your best, set of recommendations. So it's 1 teacher per each grade level. So K1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, as well as music teacher and special education teacher, the principal. And then the facilities advisory committee sort of subsumed into that committee. So that's going to be Rich and Linda. It's also going to be me. It's going to be our Director of Technology, Assistant Superintendent for Curriculum and Instruction, Director of Special Education, Director of Finance and Operations, Director of Buildings and Grounds, and also our Instructional Technology Coordinator. So it becomes a large committee. We're going to have 4 half-day sessions between now and the end of the school year for visioning. And so my understanding is that the visioning is, again, sort of that specific methodology. If we wanted to add parents in, I believe it changes the methodology. I believe it changes the timeline. And so I think that's a choice that the board can certainly, again, provide input on. I don't think anybody wants to work, again, we've had this conversation, counter to the board's goals and expectations.
I think it changes the timeline.
Because I talked to Carrie about it. Because I've talked to her about it. Because I think that was...
we're paying for it.
Absolutely, and we can pay for it to take longer. I think we asked her to move forward and to move forward with kind of an August 1 deadline. If we think that's not the right deadline, or we need to, if we want to change the steps in the process, we can do that. But I just think we need to understand. That's the feedback I had from her.
One question, Mark, you said you listed the people, the teachers and people we involved in that.
Right.
Is that now, it says visioning means with focus groups, and then has these 3 different groups. Is that, I'm just trying to...
Where are you, I'm sorry.
I'm just looking at the second bullet point here in your list here, so am I looking at the right thing?
Yes.
It says, visioning meetings with focus groups, and that lists district leadership, students, and Ames staff. So when I read that, I'm thinking in my own mind, that's 3 different
So the way
focus groups.
she was describing is during this half day,
Right.
she's going to go over things, and then groups will be breaking out.
I see.
So those focus groups will be breaking out. I don't really have because I'm not an architect, and I heard Carrie describe this visioning process, but it really, I can't really explain it because I don't have the words to explain it, so I wish Carrie were here to explain what the visioning process entails, but it starts pretty conceptual. And so from what I understood, that it's like some group activity, then it's breaking out, for those focus groups.
And the students are going to be here in these meetings?
The only other,
Not
the
all
group
of
that
them.
wouldn't be was students
Yes.
would have separate sessions.
Yes.
And
Separate
maybe,
for students.
I have a question. We're talking about bringing parents guess, based on what you said about there's going to be, we're meeting now for 4 half days, how much input do we want from the parents? I guess because that's how I can see this definitely. If we're doing 4 half days or for like, because those are pretty intense sessions.
You haven't been to the learning committee meetings.
No,
Those are all day.
Right, no, but I'm
There are
saying.
parents that want to devote the time, and there are parents that, what's interesting to me is there are parents that grew up here and experienced that school and experienced what it's
Right,
like. And it's not a bad thing to get their input.
I'm not saying it's a bad thing to get their input, but I can see how adding more people to this process can easily extend the timeline.
I didn't see that happen. I thought the learning
David,
committee was very benefited by parents.
And Sherry, I think it's certainly possible that the timeline will be extended.
I don't know.
I don't think that we should be operating as if we have to make a decision right now. We are building something that is going to be present in this district for a generation or two. It's going to impact our finances. It's going to impact our kids.
And right now, this timeline and actually just the work effort, I don't believe has enough input from the community and the board, especially as you going down this document, the second page, we have meeting with the relevant administration and/or committee to discuss the design options. Then revisions to the conceptual design drawings per the district leadership. And then we have 3 conceptual floor and site plan options with associated cost estimates to the Board of Education. Those 3 plans are it. She's not revising after that. And I believe that it is appropriate for the board and the public
There's no potential
to have this input into this.
See, I guess I have a little bit of a different opinion here. I thought after the board presentation with the 3 options, there is absolutely ability for revision at that point.
It's
Not
only
for,
fine.
not for those build
It's
dates. You have
only-
to have time to,
No,
it takes time.
there's not.
Hold on a second.
Sorry, go on.
I think, Joel, you're describing a process that's sort of portraying this as we're rushing it. We're not rushing it. What we're doing is we're taking the recommendation of a professional that we hired that's prescribed the process for us, and she does this for a living.
Yes.
At the end of the day, on August 1st, when it's all out there, if we're not happy with it, I don't think anybody on this board would support moving forward. And you're suggesting that it's a foregone conclusion at that point.
The way
It's not.
Okay, but the way it's written, it is.
And there is
No detriment
other than to the schedule to having
these conceptual design drawings be presented for community and
So-
board
That's exactly
and
what we're
others
doing.
So I actually-
input. No, there's not. That's not the way this is written.
Okay, can I just add a little?
Yes.
So when we were at our last facilities meeting, we were talking about this visioning committee, trying to figure out, I mean, I don't really exactly, know what it is. And originally, the visioning process, and I already see this happening myself, the visioning process is with the people who are living it.
Yes.
Like as a board member, I'm not really sure that I, besides, witnessing and like inputting when I feel necessary, but I don't know if my input is even necessary there. Like, I feel like the point of that is to get an idea conceptually of what they need in this building. I don't work at Ames, I don't
But
agree with it.
with all due respect, very few of the administrators or the architect, they don't live here.
Right.
No.
And that's the difference.
No, and that, so that's why Rich and I were like, we would like to be a part of that committee to represent that.
So
I'm not making myself clear.
I guess
No, I think your point is well taken, in that the people that are working in it every day probably have the most valuable input on the structure of it, right? And what are the issues that we need to address? Those are the people that we need to solicit opinions from.
Yes.
And then ideas are formulated, and those ideas are then brought public.
Right. I guess the way
I mean, if you want to decide on what a desk looks like, knock yourself out.
And I'm
Jump
not
in.
saying
That's not what
that.
he's asking for.
And don't misconstrue me, please.
there needs to be
I believe, between the time when Carrie develops her 3 sets of concepts, an opportunity for public and board input on the finalization of those drawings. And at that point, after that input, and hence
Well, I
cost
think what you're
and
saying, I
impact
can
to the
rephrase what you're saying, I think, let me just try to rephrase it. You're saying that the committee they're drafting sort of a proposal, we're gonna have some sketches and some conceptual designs and some ideas in it. And what they're gonna present, on August 1st is gonna be it's gonna be kind of polished, it's like this is everything, we kind of thought things through a little bit. What I think you're saying, Joel, correct me if I'm wrong, is that you wanna see when they get, so let's say halfway through, this is where we're going, kind of. And then people say, you know what, that looks great, continue. Or you know what about this other idea? And that could possibly change the direction. Is that what you're proposing?
And I think that needs to be in here, because at the end of at the presentation of these 3 conceptual floor plans with the cost estimates, I think that's when we're going to make a decision as to which direction we're going to go.
You mean at the August 1 board meeting?
Well, don't get...
Or whatever board meeting.
At whatever point these 3 polished concepts are ready, we're going to make a decision on which direction we're going to go with.
The deliverable on
In
August
addition.
1st is presentation of 3 conceptual floor plan, site plan options with associated cost estimates. These aren't polished, finished
These are like
plans.
two-dimensional.
These are
I feel like the part that you want and is totally necessary, and I can agree with you, is that's when that happens
That's right.
to me.
Right.
I feel like at this point, we need to let the committee and the architect do the work so that, because I am by no chance thinking at August 1, we're going to present something and we just said A, B, or C, and we're going to pick B. Like, I feel like it's going to be like
We may pick
a whole
half a A and
nother-
half a B.
Yeah.
I mean,
But
it-
we
Yeah,
have not
but,
agreed to
said
pay
numbers
for
before.
3 more sets of conceptual designs.
No, but we might.
Well, I mean,
we might.
but based on that
taking in
feedback.
both sides, I guess my biggest question is
You'll
if we
need
have the
another
August
set,
1st
is what I'm
deliverable, and maybe what's not on here after that, is, what is the anticipated timeline, or, if we're saying at that board presentation, we're taking a little bit of A and a little bit of B, then what goes after that? And maybe that's why it's a little bit, it's a little bit out in the, it kind of sounds like August 1st is the end all be all, that's when the decision's made, and then we start construction.
No.
And maybe
August
that's
1st
why
is just when
there's
ideas are
contention here.
presented.
Right.
Then that needs to be part of this schedule.
What?
I think that is part of
It
this.
is part of
That's
the
how I-
schedule.
No, it
that's
really
how-
isn't.
It doesn't say anything.
So Joel,
It
just show me
says
where it is so I can
presentation.
follow what
It
you're
doesn't
saying.
say anything.
Well, but I guess this is.
It's, sorry, David.
Yeah, if I can, I guess this is the way I'm seeing it, is that worst case scenario, say she comes back with 3 drawings, we hate them all, we're gonna be out 25,000. I mean, and we go back
right.
to the drawing board.
That's 3 new sets of conceptual.
Right,
a
but
new
I
set
don't
of
think,
conceptual.
but I guess my thing is, I think
Which costs
we've
money,
al-
by the way.
Right, which we've put a lot of time into this already. We've got a lot of community involvement already. We got sort of
How
what
is-
people.
how
we
is that?
we had people come to.
We had a
We have
public
200 parents
forum.
respond to a survey.
Right.
And we had
Okay.
that.
And so,
community.
but-
We had a
but a
public-
big-
we also had a public
Not on
forum,
the
we had a
things that
community.
are going to be
meeting.
presented.
But I guess the thing is,
Right,
we've
right,
had.
But that's.
Well, that's the point, is
Right.
that they need to see it.
Of course, but that's after August. So, of course, August 1st, if, these ideas are presented, it's not like we as a board are going to make a decision that day by any stretch. I would assume that would take.
I think.
I actually thought we would. I thought that was the point.
Honestly,
no,
then
I
I
don't
would
think so.
rather,
No, I don't think-
then I would rather see a schedule and a memorandum of understanding that reflects that. Because when Carrie spoke last month, I heard that she was not going to make significant revisions to these conceptual drawings after the August 1st date.
I guess the question is, what is considered significant? I mean, I think there will be revisions.
Add a room.
This is a time and materials proposal with a
It
not
is.
to exceed. And ultimately, Joel, we make the decisions as a board.
I understand that, but I
So-
also want to provide Carrie with direction that has the appropriate input from the community.
I firmly am committed to getting appropriate input from the community, absolutely. I would never feel comfortable proceeding on this without. I guess it's just it's a difference of, I always understood that that happens after August 1st, because August 1st is, how could a board be presented something and make a decision anytime? So, you know, like, these are large decisions, so.
To back up, where we got this schedule from the idea that we have to have a decision by August 1st in order for Carrie to produce
Workable drawings
that can be bid for 2019
That's correct.
construction. That's where this schedule comes
Right,
from.
so then if we feel comfortable, then we can loosen the schedule a little bit and add, I mean.
Then
Well, is there any-
why force the August 1st date?
Well, is there any harm to the following sort of compromise proposal? Let's let, if there are parents, and maybe not parents, just community members, we've got a lot of architects.
We have a lot of people in the
architects who
community.
really live and breathe this stuff. If they feel like they're passionate about this and they want to join the visioning committee, and they can make the time to do that.
I think you're shifting the methodology.
I think you are too.
And I think you're extending the
that's
timeline,
okay.
which is.
We hire them, yes.
Right.
But they also need to take into consideration the people that live here.
Right.
And I
There's a
don't
time
see that
for
in
that.
this yet. And I don't
There's a
see
time
why
for
it's a
that.
big deal what
Right.
Jeff is suggesting.
That's not what this says.
Well, I mean, I'm okay with this memorandum of understanding.
I say we bring it to a vote.
Yeah.
I'm confused.
Any further comments on this?
Well, I think it again comes back to, I understand why it being the time and materials contract, why it ends at August 1st, but I guess what I'm not certain of and what's not written here, obviously, is what is the timeline after? For where are we going? What are the steps? What are the bullet points? And maybe that's what's, contributing to some of the uneasiness here, is that it's a black box for us. Since we're not on that committee, we haven't been in some of those meetings. We don't have a good feel or a good idea for what comes after August 1st.
If we have a consensus with a solution, whether it be option A, B, or C, or a portion of A and a portion of C, whatever we end up with on August 1st, then that next piece of the project comes into play. And then she gives us another memorandum of understanding to produce the construction documents. And that could be another 3 to 4 months.
That's doing a redo when you wouldn't have to in the first place.
How is that a redo? How is that a
That has to
redo?
happen either way.
That's
Not
not a redo.
So
necessarily.
I think we have to be kind of united in this one particular way we're going about it. I mean, we could take a vote and it sounds like it's split, and we need to be at least sort of at least on the same page a little bit on the process here. How about this as another compromise? Somewhere in the middle of this process, we just have the architect or the committee just come in and say, hey, this is what
I was actually going to suggest that. How
This is
about
what
at
we're
every
doing.
committee of
Here's
the
our
whole meeting?
conceptual
An interim
guidance
update
so
of some
far.
sort, yeah.
Anyone have any thoughts they want to share?
People
That
have a
way it's
right
in
to
the
see
context
it.
of the
That's
board
right.
meeting.
Yeah, no.
Public comments, and then we can see what's kind of going on as it's evolving.
right.
Does that seem reasonable?
I think if it was advertised properly, that is doable.
Yeah, if.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what, maybe at somewhere around the translation of focus group meetings into conceptual floor plans, creation of design drawings, that mid-May to mid-June, we have a little board meeting. Carrie comes in and says, hey, here's where we're at the moment. This is an update on that way we're not intervening in the process. We're just kind of seeing where we're at. Does that sound?
You could-
I'm
board with
all
that?
for updates. I'm not sure at that point, like, I don't want her to make drawings just to show you. It's just not at that point
No, I'm saying
either.
after she makes the drawings, she says creation of design drawings mid-May to mid-June. After she's made those, say here they are, basically.
So sometime around the end
I'm
of,
so
Go ahead,
confused.
Rich.
so sometime around the end of June.
I mean, the other thing I think about, Dan, you refer to this as a black box. This board, the superintendent, we have not been through this process before. So we are trying to sort of interpret, and Carrie, I think, is a clear communicator, but right, she has a process that we have hired her to engage with us around. I wish she were here tonight. One idea is to invite her to, our board and CAL meetings so that there can be more dialogue with her. And I would, it's a time and materials agreement, and I think, that would certainly be very appropriate. And I think she's going to be the best person to answer some of these questions. I continue to work very hard to translate anything that is happening in the Facilities Advisory Committee to the board. And I know Rich and Linda have done the same. So again, it's not trying to make the process any more mysterious. I think, as Linda said, I think everybody is very committed to community engagement around this. What again was shared, though, is sort of the idea of visioning is different than community feedback in terms of how she sets up her process and her
Yes.
methodology.
Right.
And so
Why
I
can't we
think
have
both are
input
very
in-
What
important.
we're proposing now is with that,
In the middle.
all that goes through exactly, everything is exactly the same as what she's proposing. And the only difference is that when she's had the chance to draw these designs, that she just come and give us a little talk and say, this is where we're at, we're not done yet, we're still talking, but this is kind of where we're at right now, as of June.
That's
So, I mean,
not,
that-
yes, but that's not,
would that be-
I'm agreeing, but I'm saying that that's not all that different from what I said is at the presentation at the end of June 2018, there is an opportunity for additional feedback from the community and the board.
I would support what you suggested, Jeff, which is approving the MOU with the addition of some type of a public posting, or did you suggest showing them at a board meeting?
What I was thinking is she could come to the board meeting, at the end of June,
End
when
of
she
June.
has the design drawings, or whatever she calls them, conceptual drawings, and say, here's where we're at so far, we're not done yet, but this is kind of a snapshot of where we're at. And people say, this looks great, keep going, or hey, what about this other idea?
Or it might be more of a narrative update at that point in time.
Yeah,
And I think for her to update us mid-process feels very appropriate. I don't know if it'll be a drawing or if it'll be more of a conversation.
I think at end of June 2018, she's got to have drawings to be on schedule.
But we talked about this mid-May to mid-June, I thought.
Well, the thing is,
It's
there's
gonna
a
have to be-
presentation.
After she has the design
She has to have them
drawings.
done if she's presenting in June.
After it goes
Yeah.
to administration
I'm saying end
committee.
of June.
Yeah, so
So that would be her,
I think it needs to be added after the presentation to the district administration and committee, because then essentially you're taking the committee out of, then it's not really a committee. If those drawings and the ideas are presented to the board and public,
Or let me ask this question as a possibility.
I would think it would be after that.
The presentation to the district and committee, can we open that up to that presentation? Can we open it up to the community?
well, I think that's what Joel's suggesting,
That's
right?
what I'm asking.
But that's really what August 1st is. That's why I'm so confused.
No,
I'm just,
Aug- no,
it's not.
see,
Because
and
she
this
hasn't
is
made revisions
the-
yet. In June, see, there'd be revisions after.
When the schedule was developed, Carrie needs August 1st and some kind of approval to have 3 or 4 months to do the actual buildable drawings so that we can go to bid in January.
That's right.
That's where
We
this
did have
August
that
1st
discussion, that's true.
date comes in. If we do not, and this is why I'm saying without our approval on August 1st, construction in 2019, excuse me, does not happen.
And I don't think any of us are even promising that it could happen in 2019.
And we kind of had that discussion with Carrie a month ago.
So I think I think everyone's positions are pretty clear at this point. I don't know if we are making any further new ideas or new comments or suggestions on this.
No, I'll
So say if we, just one quick thing. So say if, I don't know, I'm trying to explain how I want to say this. So if it's not going to happen in the summer of 19 and these deadlines are not as like rigid, couldn't we just, what would be added is that, her updating us at committee meetings? Right, is that, I mean, what we're wanting is to make sure that the process is transparent, community is hearing it, the board is hearing. I think that, I feel like if you feel like we're smashing things in and leaving parts out, then, I mean, I don't think we have to adhere to this rigid schedule. Can't we, I mean, I know it's in the MOU, I understand that, but, I don't think
I'd be perfectly happy if the presentation to the district administration happened and then we had, or actually Carrie had additional time during the summer to do these conceptual drawings. But then August, when everybody starts coming back and is interested in school again after their summer vacations, then we could do these we could do a presentation of the initial conceptual drawings at that point. And that's if everybody's okay with the schedule slipping a bit.
I'm comfortable approving this MOU with the addition of a presentation after the presentation to the District and Administration Committee, but before revisions in July.
Me too. I think that would be great.
And that's fine.
Absolutely. That
But
way we get more feedback before
Yep.
revisions and final
All right, so
ideas are presented.
the only problem with that is the July schedule. Oftentimes we have very few meetings in July, but that be that as it may.
We could schedule a special meeting.
Is everyone, yeah, well, thanks, yeah. So is our, what do people think about this proposal? I mean, at this point, I guess what I'm going to ask is for a motion, and we'll have a vote, and if someone's got a better motion, but I think we have to.
Yep, move on.
Could you repeat that, Reg?
Yeah,
We can-
I'm unclear on the addition that's being made to the
Let
MOU.
me read her.
I move that the Board of Education approve the resolution dedicated, not that one. I move that the Board of Education approve the Ames Memorandum of Understanding with the addition of a presentation at a board meeting after the presentation to the District Administration / Committee at the end of June 2018 and before the revisions beginning sometime in July 2018.
Before that, okay, I see what you're saying.
Is there a second?
Oh, so moved. Sorry.
Is there any discussion? Any amendments? Okay.
Nothing, but I think we could still do this and keep our timeline.
Okay.
That's my opinion.
Then, no further discussion. Margie, please call the roll.
Ms. Kleiber?
Aye.
Ms. Murphy?
Aye.
Mr. Barsadi?
Aye.
Mr. Regan?
Aye.
Mr. Marhol?
Aye.
Mr. Hunt?
Aye.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
Motion carried.
Thanks, Margie. Next item is
Dedication.
Number 3.
Number 3. Gotta find it.
Let me give it to him.
Dedication for the retiring teacher.
Meeting adjourned.
great feature.
Do you want to use it?
Okay. So is there a, yes, this is a retiring teacher. Is there a motion for the Board of Education to approve the resolution dedicating the Hauser Auditorium stage in honor of Patricia Gill as presented?
So moved.
Second.
Is there any discussion? If not, Margie, please call the roll.
Mr. Barsadi?
Aye.
Mr. Hunt?
Aye.
Mr. Marhol?
Aye.
Ms. Kleiber?
Aye.
Ms. Murphy?
Aye.
Mr. Regan?
Aye.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
Motion carried.
Thanks, Margie. By the way, we now have 8 named rooms, or
That's right.
Oh,
6
really?
named rooms and really named buildings.
Yeah.
So do some research on the history there. So.
Fun fact.
Name them
That's over
now.
140 years.
Name them, go. Later.
He said them last night. That's okay. The cost. There was a lot.
We next
yeah.
have the next item of business is the network switch replacement. Mr. Bono.
Good evening. This is just an update, no action this evening, but we'll be coming to action in May on this. We did receive word back from E-Rate in terms of our allocations. Because we have met our funding levels at both Blythe and Hollywood in terms of reimbursements, there was an increase to cover some shortfalls there. So the proposals do go up by the fact that we're not getting as much back in terms of reimbursements. So it did go up by about $11,000 from $43,000 up to the $54,000 mark. For the network switch replacements. Any questions?
Do we anticipate that? That our reimbursements were over
No,
time?
it's, it depends on the level of funding which E-Rate puts forth, and then it's a per capita funding based on enrollments. So since those smaller schools have now really capped out all the E-Rate funding, we still do have funds available at the junior high and to the largest extent because of the volume of students, and then at Central and Ames, a small amount. Great.
Just very roughly, Mr. Savano, what's the rough cost per year if you were to annualize the total cost for these network switch replacements and look at, we have to replace them every so often. What do you figure it costs us per year on average if you were to annualize it?
I would say, well, roughly about between $15,000 and $20,000 annually, depending on how long.
District.
Exactly. Depending on how long they actually last.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you. Any other questions? Then if not, we move on to new business, and the first item in new business is the long-range technology planning and budget.
Okay, this evening going to go over kind of a long-term plan and budget projections in the fall. When we presented, I think it was Dr. Miller that had come back later and said, well, what do our expenditures look like over the next 5 to 10 years? So over the course of the year, have been mapping that out and have put together a roadmap. Although roadmap this day and age, people don't know what roadmaps are, but maybe navigation. Okay. Okay, that I just put in because I just want to remind everyone what spring looks like. Okay, in terms of the talking points for tonight, I'm going to talk very little bit about what remaining projects that were budgeted for this current school year remain, and then look at for next school year, kind of any new or exceptional expenditures, things that don't occur on an annual basis. Those would typically be your larger notable expenditures. Then going to get into some instructional initiatives that are going to be presented. Then look at those 10-year budget projections, and then just some recommendations and looking ahead. There's no action being requested at this. These are items that have been presented to our technology focus groups and then also the technology steering committee. And with their input, changes have been made and recommendations. Okay, remaining projects. Again, these were things that were budgeted in the current fiscal year. Replacement of our UPS power battery backups that protect our equipment and keep that equipment up and running when there is a power outage. And then the student data management system, which has actually been on the budget for a number of years. Through the vetting process, the group that was evaluating systems never came to a point of conclusion to make a recommendation. Ms. Brownlow is going to be presenting some more in-depth information about a solution that we'll be moving forward with in terms of recommendation. Okay, new or exceptional expenditures. These would be initiatives or projects that have a notable budgetary impact. We have been looking at an online fee payment system to bring to the district. This would allow for parents to be able to pay online fees associated with registration, but then really any type of fee that parents now either cut a check for or pay at the school. These would all be available online. An automated secure rostering service. So we do have a number of high volume of programs in which students and staff are rostered to. This type of service does provide a secure way to really do that in near real time of updating those rosters so that those services are available and up to date with current student credentials, user credentials.
Is rostering just a way of allowing students and staff access to these?
Correct. Yeah, so they could actually log into those systems securely. And in the case of a system like this, it is to also allow it to where there's a single sign-on. They're not having to continually log into a number of various systems. we would be looking at, we currently use the Clever product, which is free, and in incorporating a back-end rostering solution called Kimono. We have looked at other solutions. We presented a product to the Tech Steering Committee in the fall called ClassLink, but over the course of the year, we just continued to evaluate solutions, and Kimono was a product that really seemed to be a better fit, and it was at a lower cost. Over the course of the year, we have been working with the staff and to really identify how our data and where our data currently is throughout the district and how it's shared. And through the course of that, have identified needs for, well, what type of data do we really need to ensure that is secure and in a permissions-based type environment, so that only the individuals who really need to see it do see it. So one of the items that really at the top of the list is a student behavior data management system, which we're still in the process of vetting. One of the ones that we have identified that we feel could meet our need, that's where that kind of price allocation is denoted there, but we're not at the point of even presenting it as a for any type of recommendation. Another area that we want to investigate in the coming year is a system that could manage our RTI data. And we don't, in terms of that, what we really want to also see is how the new data management system that Meryl's going to get more in depth on, to see what needs might be able to be met through that. And so that's really just more of an investigation. Looking at print management and how we actually manage our printers and toner costs through print management solution is very similar to a copier-based model of where it's a per click, but with that you get your toner and your service, and that would be a cost-neutral type endeavor, and if not savings, but at the very least cost-neutral on it. Also, one of the items that has come up over the course of this year and the need to investigate is just our document retention. Currently, we're very paper file based that winds up in boxes and in storage and so forth. So really looking at what solutions or options are available to digitize that process and then have that information stored and retrieved digitally, as opposed to having to go to a storage locker and or into a cabinet.
What timelines are companies promising at this point?
It's investigation-wise. I mean, this is something that we're really looking to pursue, just look at and gather data next year. But I think in terms of converting documents, that really depends on how far we want to go back. So it could be, you could do a day one forward, or you could go as far as you want to go back. But obviously, depending on how old the documents are, it can be a challenge to get them in. Another thing we want to investigate is in terms of the tablet types that we have. In our primary areas, we do use iPads. There is a new Chrome-based tablet that we want to take a look at. We're not at the point of replacing any iPads at this point, but what we want to at least do is look at that technology to say when it does come time to replace any of our iPad devices, are we looking at what all the options are. Currently, there's only one tablet out there, but over the course of the next year, I'm sure there'll be dozens of them available and in competitive nature. Another solution that really was just recently identified that we want to take a look at is, part of, I think one of the challenges that can be difficult is really evaluating, are we getting a return on our investment in technology? There is a new solution called Paper Basket that we did see a web demo on, but what brought it to my attention was that it was voted the best new product in 2018 by EdTech Digest. And what that type of solution, what it attempts to do is really look at your utilization and active screen time. You can incorporate into the solution your cost for different resources, determine what type of utilization you determine to be needed in order to get value out of that resource. And then it does a calculation for ROI. So we did just see about a 30, 40-minute demo on it, and so we want to continue to really take a look at that. We're probably going to do a 30-day trial on that to see what type of data can be pulled and continue to evaluate it. Okay, some of these larger...
Just a quick question on the previous slide. Were those numbers? Sure. Were those annual numbers for the, or just
Yes.
one-time
Yeah,
numbers?
those would be numbers for next year.
But are those ongoing costs?
Yes, they are.
Okay.
Yes. Okay, in terms of expenditures, that are these exceptional expenditures that don't crop up every school year. We have the classroom technologies replacement cycle. That is the projector, document camera, control box that this was invested in the 2011 and 2012 school years. Now that estimated cost, that's the total cost estimated to replace all of them. And we're going to look at some different models of what are options in terms of the timing of replacing those technologies. The switch replacement, that was the information that I just spoke about earlier. That would be the cost rolled into the fiscal year 19 school year. Our telephone system, our voice over IP phone system, that is due for a hardware replacement, and we're actually looking not to replace the hardware. We're going to actually virtualize that, move it from a physical server to a virtual server, and also the upgrade of the actual call management software of that ShoreTel system. We have copier replacements that are coming up at Hauser Library, also in the Hollywood office and in the district office. That's an estimated purchase price. That will, for all three, that would go out for bid. We also are going to look at lease options on that equipment. We've incorporated into the tech budget the finance system for the Proviso Township. Next year is the first year where we actually incur a cost. The first 3 years, there's a total implementation cost of $48,000, and then 10 years annually after that. The costs associated with next year is $8,000. As for the implementation, that's what's due for the to the township office. And then as there's been walkthroughs that have been going through on our data centers. That's the data centers are MDFs and IDFs. That is where we house our switches, some of the equipment that we're, all this equipment that we've been purchasing, and any servers, so forth. So in walkthroughs that have occurred in those areas, there's still need for potentially some additional ventilation, some drip pans to cover just in case there is some water event. We were looking at climate control in there as well. Those are really TBD. It doesn't necessarily need to be done next year or all of next year. We really want to look at the costs that we get back, and then potentially even roll it into it's really more of a facilities-based budget item. As is our access control system. Access control system is our fob system to gain entry into the building. That equipment is also due for recycle or for cycle, and again looking not to repurchase physical hardware, to virtualize it on the server that we purchased a few years back. But there still are going to be associated fees to actually do the consolidation of those servers and virtualize it. When that equipment was originally purchased, we did not have a wide area network. So there's multiple servers that are managing those systems, and we want to consolidate it to one single server and virtualize it.
Are we seeing a lot of savings by getting away from having our own hardware to virtual?
Anytime that we can, if we didn't have that capability of virtualizing, what we'd be doing is looking at, when replacing these systems, not only looking at what your upgrade costs might be, or migration costs to a new server, you'd also be looking at the cost of the physical equipment. Now, from this point on, once we migrate to virtual, then it's you're just doing software updates. Okay, in terms of the classroom presentation systems, these are the systems that were purchased in 2011 and 2012 across our schools, and really consisted of the interactive projectors, document cameras, and control boxes. That is, if you walk into a classroom, that's standard issue equipment in the classrooms. So the scope of the project is to replace the equipment. There is some level of rewire that has to be done because there are new, there's more digital connectors like HDMI versus VGA. So there are some new cables that have to be rerun. And then we also need to have that equipment recycled out. At our elementary schools, it's just a breakdown on what needs to be replaced in terms of quantities. They do vary just because some of the equipment has already had to be replaced since some of the equipment has just failed due to age. And then you see the total number at the junior high.
What did you say, the document camera? What is a document camera?
Document camera is essentially a camera that projects
like an overhead projector.
any object or three-dimensional object that
But
you
fancier.
Think of it as like a modern-day overhead projector, except it's a camera.
Okay.
And then you can, it's up on the whiteboard, so you can, you know.
Okay, so we did a lot of surveying of staff, and kind of our process was at the beginning of the year, well, really kind of towards the end of the first trimester, we surveyed staff. We asked them a lot of questions about how they use the equipment, what equipment do they find to be a high need, and got feedback on that. But through the process of just gathering the data, we did not want to work in isolation in interpreting the data. So we did have, we formed a group of staff, we just called it the Technology Focus Group. It was made up of about 13, 14 staff across section. We tried to make sure that primary, intermediate, and the junior high grades were included. We tried to include different disciplines, the arts, so forth, Encore. And from that group went through the data and really started, came to consensus and draw some conclusions to make for recommendations for the to the Technology Steering Committee. So in terms of the data, in looking at projectors and document cameras. And so these questions were based around, do you view this as an essential instructional tool within the classroom? And there was consensus really across the board, across all grade levels, that a projector and a document camera were kind of, we need to have those in the classroom. Okay.
So just so I understand, what the difference between a projector and a document camera, what exactly is the difference? I'm still trying to understand.
The projector, like if you look across the room, like that projector is an atypical model of what's in the classroom.
Okay.
So the document camera, so that will project whatever is on the, can project what's on the teacher's device.
Right.
Or the document camera is also connected to it and will project whatever is underneath the document camera.
So like a piece of paper is what they use.
Piece of paper, an object,
so it's a way of getting, one's electronic and one's physical.
Exactly. The other thing that staff really felt was a necessity was to be untethered from the projector, and that if they have their device with them, the ability to now, at this point, with the existing equipment, they need to actually connect their devices to the control box, and if they want to walk around the room, they do so without their device. So having a wireless connection to the projector allows them to have the device freely to walk around the classroom. The big question became, when we started looking through the data, was, well, is a standard projector good enough, or is an interactive projector needed? Currently, what's in the classrooms and what the district initially purchased were interactive projectors. So we broke it down by grade level. What really identified is that as we moved up in grades, the need became more mixed. was very, very much so at early childhood through second grade, that they saw it as a high need, and pretty much a high need at grades 3 through 5, but then was very much split at the junior high. So we looked at the junior high, we looked at, well, the regular classroom teachers versus Encore. And again, we could see that there was some disparity in terms of need. So the question became, well, do we actually need to go with interactive projectors at the junior high? Or will a standard projector really do the job? Or do we just put interactive projectors in those Encore areas? So those are some outstanding questions.
So just one more stupid question. What's the difference between a standard and interactive? I mean, it's like, guess what it means. What is it exactly? What is
so an interactive projector, well, standard projector would be what we have right here. Okay.
Yep.
With an interactive projector, there's actually a technology built into the projector that allows you to interact with what is actually displayed.
How exactly? I mean,
Museums have that a lot of times, so you can walk up and
exactly.
Essentially,
Yeah, exactly. What it does is it turns that whiteboard. It would turn that whiteboard into a touchscreen through use of a pen. So actually, there's technology in the projector that is allowing the pen to now act after calibrating the board. In utilizing the pen, you can now move the objects around, and it's interacting almost like a mouse, essentially. What it's doing.
But it's doing bouncing back to the projector.
Exactly. So there's actually software, and through the connectivity of the computer to the projector, it allows you to interact with it. So again, in looking at the regular classroom teachers versus Encore, there was again a mixed need. So the question became, well, really, do we need to go with interactive projectors at the junior high, or is our money better invested elsewhere? So we also looked at what are options for deployment in terms of how much do we do at once. So we could do everything all at once next year. We could split it up and do the elementaries year 1 and the junior high year 2. Could do K2 year 1 and grades 3 through 8 year 2, or we could split it up over the course of 3 years. If we do a multi-year deployment, when we replace the technology, if we're not replacing it all, what we also have the advantage of is we have a lot of spares then at that point. So we don't have to necessarily, if we don't replace it all in year 1, we can hold some back and replace anything that does fail, so we're not, kind of hodgepodge replacing. And you can kind of see, I kind of gave away which one we're kind of leaning towards there.
And those costs that you just presented were for the classroom presentation piece only?
That's everything.
That's everything.
Well, the classroom presentation, right. That is for the projector, document camera, control box, installation.
I'm not talking about the other items that were listed.
No, this is
just for the presentation.
This is just on the presentation system.
Okay.
Yeah.
So part of what Don started to talk about is another reason we weren't looking at the junior high for next year is if we do not go with interactive everywhere, which we're pretty confident we're not going to do, it reduces that overall cost to some degree because the cost that he projected out was interactive across the board. So that's just something to keep in mind. And we want to do more investigating and be targeted about the junior high and where, if at all, they would need it. So instructionally, we've been working together with the tech focus groups and steering committees to look at some of the things that we need to support our instructional initiatives. So a couple things are coming up, and some of these are not at a cost, but we wanted to inform you so you know what's happening with the instructional technology that we utilize. Our universal screening tool, AimsWeb, is being sunsetted after this school year, the version that we're currently using. And in investigating the new version of AimsWeb versus other tools that are out there, Mrs. Shaw and I worked with the student services team as well as our intervention team, our multi-tiered system of support team, and we screened a bunch of tools and identified FastBridge as our replacement tool. It has more capability at a similar or even slightly lower cost than what we're currently using. It gives us more measures in terms of universal screening for those individual students that we need to progress monitor. So we are making the recommendation to move from AIMSweb to FastBridge. There's no cost, no higher cost incurred there. The second thing I just wanted to share with the board is that we've had this supplemental resource called Define STEM, and we've been utilizing it with our advanced learning teachers at our elementary level for some project-based learning experiences for the students. And as you heard last committee of the whole meeting around the Advanced Learning Initiative, we're looking at creating those project-based, inquiry-based units at grade 3 that are grounded in the Next Generation Science Standards. This tool is one that provides us with some frameworks, with some units in there that we can access in that capacity. So we are looking at some licensure expansion, and for next year, to expand it across third grade so that in that team teaching model, the advanced learning teacher and the third grade teacher can have access to the platform. It would cost $6,300 with a training fee of $2,500. The training fee can come out of the grant funds, the title grant funds. The grant is extended through August 31st, so any summer training, I just amended the grants to allow for training over the summer to be subsidized by our grants. So the training would be through our grant. If this were successful, this is potentially a tool as a supplemental resource that also could be utilized for grades 4 and 5 for these projects. So this one is at a cost, that's an annual subscription fee, but the quality of the projects and the feedback from the advanced learning teachers has been really positive, as well as the students who have been engaging in the projects.
What, roughly speaking, is this defined STEM expansion? Well, I mean, what roughly? I mean, I don't have to really get.
So currently we have 3 licenses, and so this would be a total of 7 licenses.
I'm asking more what it is what is the thing itself?
Oh, it's a license. It's a software, web-based software program that we can access. It's for the teachers to then push out. It's not. There's no students don't log in, but they create sort of these project-based assignments, and they can differentiate them, and they're already built and interdisciplinary in nature. So it's access to that project warehouse, basically. Without having to build it from scratch. Our supplemental math resource that we've been utilizing, 10 Marks, is also going off into the sunset after next school year. So a little just background on that. Amazon purchased this platform from the developers in 2015, and then in 2016-17, the developers left Amazon. And so Amazon is not looking at continuing to maintain the 10 Marks platform after next year. We've modified our contract for next year as with a opt-out clause if for some reason they lose their support, but the transition plan they have in place, I don't anticipate us losing any support with the product, but I did ask for the opt-out clause, and we're going to be granted that in our contract. So if for some reason, as we investigate replacements, we're having issues with 10 Marks, we can terminate our contract mid-year if we need to. But in working with the tech focus group teachers, we want the time to investigate a good product for the replacement. The thing about the 10 Marks platform and the way it's used in a supplemental fashion is it's not something they go on and just do practice with. There's some instructional components and some adaptive components to really personalizing either enrichment or remediation for students within that platform. And so we want to also make sure that we have the student privacy in mind. Khan Academy was one of those open ed free resources that does wonderful things, but we had privacy concerns around that resource, and so that's why we have been with 10 Marks. So we are investigating other tools that could potentially do the same things as Khan could do, or that 10 Marks can do with that privacy piece as an umbrella. So we'll be working on investigating that. Again, not looking to do it at an increased cost, looking to do it within the same budgetary allocation that we currently have in place.
Just very briefly, what are the privacy concerns with Khan Academy?
The data's not protected.
What
It's their data sharing.
Their data sharing.
Is, it doesn't meet the level to which we've set for allowing students to access the resource.
So
providing them data.
we would need parent permission. So if you have a classroom where parent is not granting permission, we need.
Does
we would need that.
I've been on the Khan Academy a few times, but you just watch videos and they show you how to do stuff. Where's the data? What exact data are we worried about there?
There's
students log in to utilize it. You set up accounts for kids.
Okay.
So there's student information
And
that's housed within that system.
We are going to attempt to pursue a data sharing agreement with them.
We keep pushing them. Yeah, because it's a great resource, but it's just not secure. Yeah, we like the resource, and that's why in some classrooms there's 100% parent permission
I was going
for
to
some
say a lot of
teachers.
the parents probably already used it.
A few, especially at the middle school more so. But if you don't have the parent,
maybe not the little ones.
if you don't have the parent permission, it becomes what's that alternative for a student? So we hope to push them because then that would be at even a lower cost. But we'll see what happens. And that brings us to the data management piece that Mr. Tufano already sort of alluded to. We've been looking for 3 years. Right now, if I want to do any kind of comparison analysis, I am pulling the data by hand or asking Dr. Miller to run my reports for me. Just kidding. He runs some great reports. But right now, it's very tedious to get in. I have to go into each separate system. So I have to go into MAP, or I have to go into Park, or I have to go into AimsWeb, and I have to pull it all, and I have to create my own spreadsheets. And I can't. Longitudinal data becomes really cumbersome to try to track and pull. So a data management system does amazing things and saves us lots of hours, but also gives us way more comprehensive metrics than what I work with currently. In a data management system, I can look at academic data, classroom-based and standardized. So we could upload our common assessment data. We could upload any data that we feel is pertinent to looking at a student's profile. Discipline and attendance data can be loaded in, and then all of our student information system data. So it will take the demographics as well as the achievement and any other factors, contributing factors to a student's school success, and we could build those reports with a click of a button. The other really amazing thing about what these systems can do now is you can run, the rep said, slice it and dice it. I don't work in the kitchen, so that meant nothing to me. I don't do the cooking, so slicing and dicing, that didn't resonate. But I can look at any kind of comparative analytics I would want over any longitudinal period that I would want. So I could isolate things in a number of different ways to make sure our programs are doing what they're supposed to be doing for students. You could look at a subgroup that you created even like by age within the system, because I could tease out, students that turn 5 before this date or 6 before this date, whatever. But you can do so many different things, and you can compare assessments. So I could take the MAP data and the AimsWeb data and a classroom assessment and look at a profile across to see if we're doing well here but not here, where are we not aligned? We began vetting these systems in the fall of 2016. It's 2018, right? Right. System capabilities, student data privacy, financial implications, and ease of use were all factors that we were considering when we were looking at these systems, and this is why it took us so long to make a recommendation. PowerSchool Unified Insights is the program that we're recommending. As I said, the comparative dashboard is incredibly easy to manipulate with different assessment types, student groups, programs, schools, you name it, it'll do it. These were some of the other programs we had looked at prior to seeing this tool this year. So PowerSchool Unified Insights was just released this fall. It's newer. We looked at Decision Ed, which PowerSchool Unified Insights does almost everything. I can't think of something it doesn't do that Decision Ed did. We loved Decision Ed, but look at that price tag. A little crazy. You purchase it and you own it, so it's at a much higher price point, whereas PowerSchool Unified is cloud-based and it's part of our PowerSchool package. School City Suite we looked at, it wasn't very user-friendly. Otis had much less capability than what we were looking for. And then IO Education was another tool that I looked at with our team, and it does what Power School Unified Insights does, but it's out of Atlanta and New York and has not been integrated into any Illinois system, whereas Power School is pretty familiar to us. And the nice thing about buying a tool that integrates with a system we already have is it's just a click on a teacher's dashboard, and they don't have to go somewhere else to get at the information. So those were some of the other tools. So the implications for Power School Unified are up here in terms of budget. It fell within the budget that Mr. Tofano had been waiting to spend, and that we just hadn't found a system to match the budget. And so this is what it would look like for a 3-year rollout over the next 3 years with training costs. Again, I can grant fund the training for this next year to get everybody up to speed. Then also the nice thing about this is I can create the dashboards for the teachers. So I could push out the dashboards to the teachers' computers and they won't have to figure anything out. So if a teacher, I don't have to overwhelm them and they don't have to figure out how to manipulate and get what they want. We could give them a basic dashboard that they always want to see, and it would be there for them to just pull up without much effort, which if it's a lot of effort, they won't utilize it. So I'll turn this back over, unless you have any questions about that.
Just a couple questions. I'm glad you're looking at these different options. I'm glad you found something that's cheaper that would meet your needs. Earlier, Mr. Tofano was talking about a student behavior data management system and a student response intervention data management system. I seem to recall we've got other data management systems floating around for this, that, and the other thing. MAP and all these different sort of databases. Do we need all of these separate databases, or would
my projection is we will not need RTI. That was in there as an investigation prior to seeing this system, and that's earlier he said, well, we're not sure if we'll need the RTI. My guess is we won't, with this thing you're just talking about, this data management,
right, would that be sufficient to do all these other things that we're...
It'll be sufficient to do RTI. Okay. We extract the data from their database to enter into a data management system. So the MAP database comes with the MAP tool, and it won't be something that replaces the MAP database, but we'll feed the data from MAP into the data management system. The discipline data system, I'm going to let him speak to that.
I think there's two ways to look at when thinking of the data system. There's a systems by which the data can be collected, and then the system by which data can then be reported, where we can, run analytics and have multiple data points on the screen at one time. So the data management system that Muriel is talking about is really that analytics component, where it's taking in the data that has already been input somewhere, or where we have. So for instance, that system would take that MAP data, that academic data, and put it in. And then any other assessments, common assessments, can put it in. Now, the behavior data, where we're running, where we have identified the need, is that we don't have a good collection point, okay? And what is being used, what we need to make sure is the way that data is being collected, we need to do it in a more secure manner so that it can be housed in a more permissions-based system. Now, once we have that ability to collect that data and have it secure, then it could go side by side into the data management system as another data point. Okay, so if at all possible, when we've looked at systems, we've tried to have it be where it is still all under one hood, if possible. When we started the investigating systems, actually Power School did have a product a few years ago, but they've since moved away from that one, purchased another data management product and integrated into their current, into the Power School, made it a module. So now you can, as an add-on to the actual student information system. So we do try to look, when possible, to have it be within our student information system so that all that data is in one secure place and we don't have to go to another system. But where they're running into issues, I think more so at the junior high, is there's really not a good collection point of how to take that data in digitally and have it stored centrally in a secure manner.
Other questions about the data management piece?
Okay, so want to take that information and really look at, well, what does it look like over 10 years? Okay. So the 10-year budget projection with a 10-year average, and in looking at the tech department related expenses. Now the one expense that, because we're going to look at current and moving forward, but then we're also going to look at historic. I did mention the need for copiers. Copiers have not been, they're technically not part of the tech department budget. That is something that I'm just kind of taking over in terms of managing and oversight of those accounts. So we're looking at these numbers, we're looking at really tech department numbers. Copiers have been more building-based expenditures, okay, in which now I will just have oversight of those accounts. So in looking at our technology-related expenses moving forward, we have an average annual spend of $734,000. Now you can see that in the different models that we did, each of those models is based off of that expenditure options for the equipment, the replacement equipment of the projector, document camera, control boxes, so forth, and having that equipment replaced. So option A was, well, what does it look like over the next 10 years in terms of the ebb and flow, the ups and downs of the budget if we did a full replacement in year one, and then we'd have replacement down the line. So each of those options are presented there. Option B is if we did K-5 next year, and then the junior high in fiscal year 20, and again, C and D go on. And if we did them all, if we split it up a third, you can see that that is the most flat. It flattens out. But your average expenditure over the 10-year period is still that amount.
So, Don, I'm sorry, just a quick note. I think the slide that we have is the numbers a little different than yours.
Right. Well, we've been continuing to do the budgeting process, and I continue to revise the tech budget based on quotes that we get back.
So that's the more up-to-date number.
This is the more up-to-date number.
Okay.
Yes.
Can't read that number.
734.
What about the bottom three that looks very, very different?
They're all the same average over 10 years. Oh, those are just the fiscal years. Okay. I don't have the actual numbers. Yeah. Okay, so in looking at fiscal year 19 through 28, this is a slide that you don't have. This slide has been updated.
Can you send it to us?
Yes, definitely. So he did is looked at on the left-hand side. What you have is it starts with fiscal year 18 and goes 10 years out after that. Okay. Now what we did is we pulled some historical data, and what I did is I went back to fiscal year 11, and that was the first year that the projectors were purchased. So over fiscal year 11 and 12. So then I pulled from fiscal year 11 all the way up to fiscal year 18. The average in those spans, the estimated average budget between fiscal year 19 and I believe it's 23, or 28, sorry, 19 and 28 is an average of that 734, okay? When we look at, historically, if we look at fiscal year 11 through fiscal year 18, that actual average spend was 736, okay? Now, and I hope this slide isn't confusing. It might be easier if I walk up there.
Is that slide on the right the actual cost that we've actually spent on technology?
Yeah, the one on the right is what we actually spent. And then the one on the left is the projected.
And the one on the right is the...
the one on the right was actually fiscal years 11 through 18. Okay, so you have... now, but fiscal year 11 and 12 were when we did the same purchase that we're looking at doing now, the replacement of, at that point it was the installation of the projectors and all the equipment. So in the 10-year span moving forward, for the slide on the left, we're projecting an annual budget average of 7 34. If we look at between fiscal year 11 and fiscal year 18 this year, our average actual spend was 736.
And that's the total tech budget?
Yes.
Total tech budget,
Yeah.
700.
No, not total, that's the average.
Oh,
That's the average
that's
spend.
the average total.
Exactly, the average total. So then what I want to do is focus on the smaller bands that you see with the 740 and the 782. That's the 5-year average cost. So looking at fiscal year 19 through fiscal year 23, the next 5 years, our average spend annual is 740. If we look at the 5 years between FY11 and FY15, that average spend was 782 when we first put the equipment in.
But in 26, you've got a huge jump, and that didn't happen in the past.
Right, but we also have some dips that are, we do have some lower. Right, but the average, but in looking at the average over the cost of those 10 years is still 734.
Yeah.
I guess the thing is, the way it's like all this equipment is, you need to recycle.
I understand it. The question is it nice to have or need to have? I think that's the talk we have.
Well, and the other thing with the we have the valleys and the peaks. Looking at the peak down the road, that is also an estimate. It's based on what we think those cycles might be. We've actually gotten a lot more out of some of the equipment that we have. And there's a level of maintenance that's involved in that, and doing preventative maintenance. It is, making sure that equipment is in a climate-controlled area. There's a lot of things that factor in to the wear and tear on equipment. So I actually found it, after pulling the data, and I'm glad we did pull the data, but I would have thought that our costs, what the other thing that I look at with this is given, I also look at the resources that we have now versus what we had when we were initially putting it in. We're also doing a lot more with those, with these funds as well.
Well, and technology costs though have come down.
The equipment costs,
Yeah.
the equipment costs actually have come down in many
I
instances.
think the tricky part for me are those annual fees, subscription fees.
Mm-hmm.
It seems like they can just add up.
Well, and that is all factored in there.
Yeah.
Right, but I guess the thing is,
It's kind of the model, though. You're not really going to get away from
Well, the
maintenance.
question is, how many of those do you want? I think.
well, I guess
Because
this
they
is
add up.
one thing I would one thing that we don't have here, but I think would be interesting just for more historical, is what was this 20 years ago? And then 30 years ago, it's just
zero.
Nothing.
Right,
Nothing.
right. But I guess I'm also looking at this library that we're in today. When we were in school, there were books and encyclopedias. How much of that has gone away for this? I'm just sort of looking. This is sort of where.
Well, how much of our achievements gained? I think that's a question I have.
I'm sorry.
How much is our achievement gained?
But and the other thing I do want to say too,
I'm not saying we don't need
Right,
some
but
of
this
it,
isn't also
it's a
all
question
about
of what you do with it.
Right.
this isn't also all about, there's a definite percentage that is educational related technology, but there's also operational technology embedded in there too.
Sure.
We are doing online registration. We didn't do that. So we want to do online fee payment. Well, the projections moving forward have online fee payment factored in. So it is also about, well, what services are we offering not only to staff and students, but also to parents? Again, from in terms of the amount of services that we have and the projected costs on maintaining those services, it's actually, overall, you would see technology coming down if we decided to remain static, if we decided to do nothing new.
I still think, because as a parent at least, with the online registration, I still have to register both of my daughters separately. It's that kind of stuff that I'm hoping the administration can look at when we talk about what services we're providing. We still have to put in the exact same documents, just a couple months apart. And it is a bit of a chore. It's not impossible, but think about the usability of the services that we're talking about. It's just a request I have. make
Well,
it
and
as
again,
easy as possible.
we try to incorporate those services to match what the expectations are in terms of, how often do we want to review those types of documents and such. Okay, so kind of summary of the stuff that we've looked at. What does fiscal year 19 look like with newer, expanded operational instructional products? Well, the online fee payment system would be incorporated in. We have the rostering service, the potential for a behavior data management, the print managed print solution, which you're looking at as a cost-neutral option. The student data management system, which actually we would, I believe Meryl's going to be bringing it forward in the coming in May. So we'd look to actually get that started using the fiscal year 18 dollars that were budgeted, and then have it moving forward. And the defined STEM expansion. And then the replacement technologies, those classroom technologies, it's estimated next year that would be that 167 for next year. For the year 2, that's the projected, that budget amount is, as Meryl said, kind of that worst case scenario if it were interactive projectors. But we don't know we're going to go that way. So we're kind of budgeting worst case scenario. The switch replacements, the phone upgrades, the copier replacement cycle, finance software, access control system, so forth. And then what we really have identified as needing further investigation, those data center remediations that were discussed, the digital document retention. We do want to look at our one-to-one device levels at the lower grades before they're actually up for cycle. We want to look at, what are our device levels, and then we want to evaluate, look at the Chrome tablet versus the iPad.
Don, and this might be a question for Martha as well. As we're looking at something like an online fee payment system, that should help the district office in terms of your labor cost. And are you looking at other ways to leverage staff to do other things that don't involve processing payments, or is that?
Well, I know we've talked about two things. One is that, but we don't really have an answer on that. And then the other is just, one of the things that the online fee sort of payments sort of tout is this idea of better fee recovery also potentially. So those are things that would remain to be seen, but those would be certainly considerations. I mean, we know there's going to be a major software upgrade because of the township treasurers in terms of how that creates sort of changes in workflow and efficiencies. We'll be looking at that over time.
But I think one of the other goals in terms of that fee collection process, that it's not happening at the school level, and it's really fees are being processed more at home because you're uploading you're paying for you're purchasing lunches or milk or any type of a fee, you could then pay for it online.
Thanks for putting that together. It's very clear. It's good to have that sort of rough roadmap, or what do you want to call it.
Any other
so you're thinking about $750K, so you're basically $750,000 a year roughly.
Yeah,
that's kind of where ongoing cost.
Yeah.
Just one question. When Mr. Holmes gave us the sort of preliminary budget presentation in February, was that how much did you incorporate the $750 in there, or is that?
No, that had not been.
That's not in there at all.
Correct.
But what did you remember what you did put in there for technology, or?
Pretty much what had been.
What had been, which was roughly $750, I guess. In the past, you're saying it was roughly the same, right? So.
Again, there's other. Yeah. I'm not sure exactly what was for that in terms of what accounts.
Okay.
Was incorporated in that.
But that was sort of the broad parameters. So
Right.
if it's been $750,000 on average over a period of time, or 738 or 48, whatever that number was, right? That the technology was in the budget,
right?
As a broad term.
But lumped in with technology, there's libraries, technology, and copiers like that. Yeah. So that's.
Looking at this, there are things that were not in the budget before that are now being put on the budget. So they're being moved, costs are being moved from other areas to this. Yeah. So.
Well, there's only 2 that were in the current budget.
Right. But still, it's still.
So out of like 15.
But they're.
Right.
All right, any other questions for Mr. Fromm? No, thank you very much. Thanks, Ms. Bromwell. Next item is the professional development, the Metro Chicago Mathematics Initiative.
So Mary, you want to come talk about that?
Sure. So we've been entered into contract with the Metro Chicago Mathematics Initiative this year as part of an ongoing professional development support model for our teachers. And they've provided coaching and some instructional strategy support in the area of mathematics. We had a very successful experience this year and are looking to continue to support that initiative. We had 6 teachers individually coach this year, but what was really great about it was they were able to bring things back to that collaborative 90-minute professional development time that we had and share some of their successes and some of the things they were trying, particularly with the implementation of the mathematics program. And so we are not going to be pursuing as much professional development through Math and Focus next year because we've done our implementation content program training for the last 2 years, but we would look to continue with this contract as sort of that support around implementation with 6 additional teachers being individually coached and then also incorporating grade levels that didn't get that opportunity this year. So we were focused on 3, 4, 5 this year. We're looking to embed K1, 2 and keep a couple of intermediate teachers in the loop too to continue the work that they started this year. And it also gives us access to a lot of other resources through our partnership. So we get access to all of the Silicon Valley Mathematics Initiative supplemental resources, which is where we get a lot of our problem-solving tasks and a lot of our higher-level application tasks that can supplement.
Questions for Ms. Brownlow on this topic? Thank you. That is the last item on the old business. So at this point, is there any public comment? If not, I think there's a couple items we have to go back into closed session for. Is there a motion to go into closed session to discuss the appointment, employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of specific employees of the district or legal counsel for the district, including hearing testimony on a complaint lodged against an employee or against legal counsel for the district to determine its validity. For the placement of individual students in special education programs and other matters involving individual students, and for litigation when an action against, affecting, or on behalf of a particular district has been filed and is pending before a court or administrative tribunal, or when the district finds that an action is probable or imminent, in which case the basis for the finding shall be recorded and entered into the closed session minutes.
Second.
Marcy, please call the roll.
Ms. Murphy? Mr. Regan?
Aye.
Mr. Barsadi?
Aye.
Mr. Hunt?
Aye.
Mr. Marhol?
Aye.
Ms. Kleiber?
Aye.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
Motion carried.
Thanks, Margie. When we come out of closed session, no action will be taken. So I just mention the next board meetings will be on May 2nd, Committee of the Whole at 7 p.m. at Blythe. May 16th, the regular business meeting at 7 p.m. at Hauser. June 6th, the Committee of the Whole at 7 p.m. at Hauser. And June 20th, regular business meeting at 7 p.m. at Hauser. So we are now in closed session.